today? Expressions. Okay, and then try to write a kind of a method that will be able to pull through a string without using regular expressions. And tomorrow's class we'll try to implement, using inbuilt library functions, we try to look at regular expressions. Okay, fine. So without wasting much of our time, let's start. Okay, before I get to question and answer, let's start. Window day. So we continue. So what are we doing today? So today will be, actually it should have been day 17 and 18, because I'm going to treat two concepts at a very fast pace. Okay, 17 to 18 or 50. All right, fine. So we are looking into what? Exceptions. So let's start with exception first. So we say Python exceptions. Python exceptions. So let's define this actually. All right, guys. So you may have come across something. So can I start doing something here? Let's go to the console and then clear this, maximize this. I'll show you something once for all. So in between, you must have done something like this. Say you wanted to print hello. Just look at the console, guys. So I wanted to print hello. Yes or no? I'll say hello. Now I use single quotes to start. I use double quotes to start. I'm using single quotes to close it. Let's see what this is going to give us. Okay, press enter. Now it says end of line while scanning. So this is an error. It's a syntax error. Fine. So many a times we come across these errors. Okay, so let's try to see if there's actually a little thing, okay, some little distinction between exceptions and errors. So we say here broadly speaking, I think I should use a different color. Sorry guys, can you see what happened here? My journal, all the tab has disappeared. Can you see, guys? Some funny thing has appeared here. So let me just close this and open it again. Hope you don't mind. See, it's no longer moving actually. All right, just 1 minute, guys. If you look at the menu bar, you see it looks like some stuff, right? It looks so funny. I hope I should be able to close this and reopen it again. Let's see. Please, sorry about that. Let's just see. I'll try to force this, close it, and then I'll reopen it again. It hasn't changed yet. Oh, okay. Okay, so I should be able to open it now. All right, yeah. Can you see the screen now? This is what I wanted. Okay, so I'll open that file. It's called this. Fine. Okay, so I can see my navigation. All right, cool. Okay, so broadly speaking, we say that what errors in Python are classified into two, right? I think my writing is not improving any longer. So Python errors in Python, okay, we can classify it into what? Two, broadly speaking. So we have one is called what? The syntax error. Syntax error. And another one is called what? Exception. So what can you say about this now? That exceptions are actually what? Errors. That exceptions are actually what? Errors. Yes or no? Fine. So we can now say that exception is a subset of error. Okay. Now, since you know this basic thing now, what we can do is this, okay? That let's take some little definition on this. Okay, so first thing is this. We say that, okay, let's understand something on syntax error. Syntax error. So as the name suggests, please listen. As the name suggests, a syntax error is caused by wrong syntax in the code. Yes? So we can say, okay, caused by wrong syntax in the code. Caused by wrong syntax in the code. Yes or no? In the code. Example, we have seen that. We wanted to print hello in the console. We said print. Though we knew it's a string, we started with double quotes and then we closed with single quotes. So this error came. Fine. Done. So we do this especially if you are new to programming. And these errors are kind of easy to handle. At least you need to know the syntax. Yes or no, guys? This is easy to handle. Yes or no? Fine. And you see what happens here. One thing you should remember is that this error always leads to termination of the program. Always leads, always lead to program termination. Abruptly, like program terminates. Sorry, I'm writing problem. Sorry, program termination. Fine, no worries. And we have seen that example. So let's look at now exception. So exception will be better understood when we take an example. Exception is an error, so we cannot say exception error. Yeah, if you feel like you can call it an exception error. So let's look at our console. All right, so we go to the console and we say something now. I clear this. Fine. Now I'm going to type something now. I will say int. Okay. Say enter a num. Say enter any number. Any number. Enter any number. Any number. So the user enters a number. I want to divide this number by 0. Okay, my might say, sir, yes, you know you're going to get an error. Why do you want to divide by 0? No worries. I'll take a more concrete examples later, okay? And I know that this, I'm going to store it in a variable. Maybe I call it x. Fine. So I ask the user to enter a number. Now, it says here, okay, base 10 of any number. Okay, no worries. So what I should do is, yes, int input. You got the point? Sorry, this is the funny part with the console. So copy Control C, Control V. Fine. So I'm converting it. I'll say input. Fine. Enter any number. No worries. So this is done. And now once the user enters this number, okay, what I want to do is say 10. Now this is the funny part. I will not get anything, right? So this 10 is stored in variable x. So I can now say x divided by, or maybe 0. Fine. Now error bar 10. It says 0 division error. Yes? Fine. 0 division error. So this again is an error actually. That's why we now say that in Java we said an exception is a subset of an error, right? So error is a superclass, exception is a subclass. No worries. So we can now say that errors are known as exceptions rather than, or they say exceptions belongs to the error class, if something like that can be related. Okay. So if you want to define this now, so we said these are errors. Errors raised, exceptions are errors raised. Errors raised when what? The program is syntactically correct, yes or no? Syntactically correct, yes or no? But there is a catch here. But what? The code resulted in an error. Can we say it's logically wrong? But the code resulted in an error. So can we say it is logically wrong? Yes, guys, logically wrong. Okay. So most times you see logical errors are difficult to catch if there are no exceptions. Example. Please listen. You got this concept, right? When we divide by 0, we know that 0 division exception. Fine. Index out of bound exception. Fine. But let's say somebody is starting to program. Let's look at something else. Someone is starting to program and he's like, okay, he didn't know the concept of indexing. We have studied that, okay? So I'm going to use the same variable x. I'll take a list of numbers. I'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if I ask you, what is the len of x? What is the len of x? Everybody knows that. The len is 7. So somebody who is starting to program might say, okay, if the len is 7, that means index will start from what? 1. Because you can see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So if he tries to take this now, he says index of 1. But he'll be thinking, oh, why is index of 1, 2? Oh, okay. Now, mistakenly, he might say, okay, I need the last element. Yes or no? We know for sure we can get the last element by just doing this. Fine. But the person is new to programming. So he says, okay, fine. I need to get the last element and it is 7. Got the point? Now, this error comes. Least index out of range, exception. So this is an index error. And it has arisen, okay, if there's such a word like that. And we have actually, run into this error. So another example of, listen guys, all these errors, okay, can be classed, subset of errors still come under errors. Call it logical, call it anything, okay? Now, another logical error is, let's say I want to return. Okay, you have seen this example, right? You have seen examples, say 10 divided by 0. You can actually do this. And or you can also do maybe like 3.2 divided by 0 or something like this. I'm looking for the floor division. Yes or no? Now, and we have seen also the index slicing. So we had, sorry, indexing in arrays. So we saw something like this now. Okay, and then I now say, okay, x the index of 4, which gives me what? Error. Index error. Fine. Now, one thing we might be interested to know is another example of logical error. Say I'm interested in what? Remainder after division. After division. Now, you see the problem here. The code will execute, but the logic is wrong. So what we know, say 3 mod 2 is equal to what? 1. But you see, most times what people will do, right? They will say, let's say this is called num1. This is called num2. They are interested in remainder after division. They go and write even an odd program. Because modulus is there, right? Fine. What they will do now, instead of taking exactly equal to 1 here, you have to check. If it's exactly equal to 1, then, okay, we know some stuff. Now, see here. Even an odd, but you are asked to write what? Return the modulus after the remainder after division. So they'll go and check. If num1 modulus whatever num2 is exactly equal to 0, return whatever. So you see, most times this will execute, okay, and return some stuff value, but that value might not be an error which you can catch that will make the program to terminate. See, syntactically correct, but resulted in an error. So here it will kind of terminate if it's not handled. So in this case now, this guy actually, he is getting an output, but that's not what he wanted. Okay. So on this basis now we have seen, now you might say, what are the different types of errors in Python? Various types of errors in Python. So ask Google. Okay. So let's ask Google quickly. We say, okay, fine. Okay, Google. Various Python. Various types of errors in Python. In Python. Fine. Now Google is like, okay. So you see here, we have actually, and this is a classical case. Some student actually messaged me. Okay. I will just show you this indentation error now. Okay. So this is raised when there is an incorrect indentation. Okay. Tab error, system error. So how many errors can you get now, guys? Errors in this, you can look at this tutorials teacher. They are saying about maybe how many errors are there actually. Who knows? So you see, syntax error we have seen. Indentation error, maybe you must have come across that, and I'm going to show you an example also where even if you make that error, even if you come across that error, you will not get that. You get an output, but that's not the desired output. Okay, so look here, assertion error, attribute error, end of file error, whatever. So these are all of them, key interrupt error and some stuff. Okay, so everything is here. So example, so you can actually see this, right? So let's say I want to call x of something, so I'll just press Ctrl C and press enter. You see key interrupt error. I just press Ctrl C, guys, keyboard interrupt. So I clear this again. Inside the console, what I just did, I press Ctrl C, okay, and I press enter. Keyboard interrupt error, Barrette. Fine. Okay. In case if you don't understand Canada, yes, keyboard error has occurred. So one of the things I want to show you is this. One of you actually messaged me. Okay, she wanted to print a pattern. And the problem here is we're going to show indentation error. Okay, why don't you show it now? So I will use this as an example of indentation error, guys. So let me just use her program only. So yes, if you are here, don't feel bad. Okay, so she's been struggling to do this, but I told her also, look at this, but again her output is entirely different. Now please guys, pay attention to the position of this. Pay attention. You see this is under this for loop, right? And this is under this. Fine, let me just run this quickly. Now F5. This is what she wanted to print. A, B, C, C, D, D, E. Okay. Now watch what happens here. Let me push this guy outside. Little bit. Now I press F5. Now did you see what I got? There is no error. No indentation error in this case, right? But this is not what I wanted. Now, I believe if you are listening, you should be able to solve your problem now. Now, watch here. This is there. Now, let me do one thing here. Did you see this followed a kind of an indent? Now, let me just press space bar. Little bit. It's not following any indent now. I press F5. Now, see here now. Indentation error has occurred. It's telling now unindent code does not match any outer indent layer or level, whatever. You got the point now? Yes. So this is what you should be conscious of. Okay. Now, and you see, if you are starting, if you are new to programming, you may not even understand. Just little space bar resulted in this. Your friends are getting output, you're not getting output. Pay attention. Okay. So this is done. Now, another thing she did was, please listen. This was the default case, right? So, and we got this output, go back, and we got this output. But what she fails to understand this, her code was like this. Everything is under this. Now watch, this was what she's getting. I believe if you are here now, you'll be able to solve your problem now. So this is what she got. And I told her, okay, fine. Look at the indentation. Indenting properly said, I have tried, I didn't get that. So what did you notice here? Now this is a case of logical error. We are getting the output, but that's not the desired output. So I'll change it back here. Fine, and that's it. Okay, guys, done. So I'll comment this out. I just gave this, and this is a classical example for what you are treating. Okay, this is fine. Now let's proceed. So you have seen all this, okay, and there are lots of them. Keyboard interrupt and all whatnot. So enough. Thank you. Thank you, Google, for showing us this. Now let's continue. Fine. So we have seen this, and we have seen various types of errors in Python, about maybe 20 plus. Ask Google. Fine. Now, if this is the case, let's now look at how we handle exceptions. Okay. And another thing you should understand is, what are exception hierarchy? Please listen. Since we are studying this, right? Let's look at something else. Exception has hierarchy, yes or no? There'll be a superclass, there'll be a subclass that extends that. So look at exception hierarchy. I hope I'm able to pronounce this properly. I don't know. I'm African. Don't mind me, okay? So let's look at exception hierarchy. Yes. So Google, where are you? So COVID detection, I don't know. So let's ask this guy, exception hierarchy. Exception hierarchy, H-I-E-R-A-R in Python. Is there? P-Y-T-H-O-N. Fine. No, now you see here, the Python exception class hierarchy consists of a few dozen different exceptions spread across a handful of important base classes. So let's look at an image. All right. So if you look at an image, please look here, guys. So there'll be a base class, what I wanted to explain, and there'll be a superclass, right? I mean, there'll be a subclasses. So if you look at this now, you see this is the base exception, and this exception, okay, consists of all these guys. And keyboard interrupt exception is a different type of exception, right? I did not do anything. I just pressed Ctrl+C there, and I pressed enter again, and I got that. So this is attribute error under exception, then arithmetic error and whatnot. Now, under arithmetic error, you have floating point error, you have overflow error, you have zero division error. So zero division error is a subset of arithmetic error. Okay, that's what interests me here. And you see here, lookup error, index error, key error, and then OS error, file exists error, or permission error. Okay, so you can actually, there are lots of them actually, it's not that one. See here, so you have base here, you have exception. In the base exception you have, ouch, this is not clear, sorry guys, this is not clear, but you got the concept, right? So you have the exception, you have the base system exit, you have the generator exit and all whatnot, you have your arithmetic, you have your zero division error, floating point and all whatnot. Okay, fine. So since we are done with this now, we are done with exception hierarchy, thanks to Google. So this shows the base and the child relationship, or the parent-child relationship in this error, parent-child relationship, or the base class versus subclass, base versus subclass relationships. Fine, relationships. Okay. Now let's start handling this exception now, right? So we know that these exceptions can actually be handled using try and except statements. So let's look at now exception handling. So we are going to look at a case of what? Try and except statements. STMT for short. Fine. All right. So let's take an example. We take a list, the same list that we saw, right? So for example, we have a list. Consider this list. Consider the code below. So I'll write it, and then we're going to add, we try to dry run this. Okay. So here, what do we have? We had that x was equal to what? Something. Okay, now is equal to something. 1, 2, 3, 4 for simplicity. Okay. Now what we want to do, we want to say print what? How do you print the second element? We saw that, right? We say second element is, it doesn't matter, okay? You can actually do this. Or if you want to use format specifier, since it's an integer, right? You say percentage %d. It doesn't matter actually, percentage %d. You can ignore this, okay? Now, then you can now, if you're using this now, you have to say, okay, find percentage what? A of I. A of what? Second element, right? Which is A of 1. Fine. It doesn't matter. You can just print like that only. Second element is this comma, that. Remember, comma has to be here. So this is done. So this block of code gives an output of what? No worries. What's the output? Output equals what? 2 is the second element. Error free. Now, error prone code is this guy. Print, say, fourth element. Because we know len function returns 4, right? So when you call len on x, it says it equals to 4. So we want to print now fourth element is something like that. Okay. Now we now say a, this is second element, we knew that for sure. So 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we now say a 4. Okay, please listen, guys. Please listen. This is not what I wanted to do. As a starter, or maybe you get confused. Second element, you just went and said A2. And you know when you said A2, what it's going to print is what? 3, which is actually what? The third element. Yes or no, guys? So this prints what? 3, which is the third element. No worries. Now you now say fourth element in that. So your mind is on this. Okay, and then you said A4. Fine. Now, what do you get? You're going to get index out of bound error. So to handle this now, you think of that block of code that is going to give you an exception, right? So which block of code is going to give you an exception? Which one? Where do you see that? This print statement. Yes or no, guys? These two, right? So what you do is you can wrap it around a try and catch block. So you say try. Please remember colon. Okay. Now, and how you have to indent it. So it's not going to look like this. It will look like this. So you say try colon. Now you print this one. Okay. So that block of code that is going to give me an error has to be wrapped inside this. Fine. Now, when this occurs, so I'm going to say except. I will now say now print an error, index error. What do you call it? Print index out of bound exception, index error occurred. I hope this concept is clear. Okay, so let's proceed. In a couple of explanations, we will start with our thing. Okay, now, so what happens here is the output, this one will come, no worries, and this gives an error. So this is error prone, error prone. And then it's what happened previously when we did not handle this exception. It breaks out, right? So, but in this case, it will print this kind of a default message. All right. So, catching specific exceptions. Okay. So, how do you catch specific exceptions? Now, we know, right? Specific in the sense, this previous one we never knew, sir. What is that? Thank you, Samad Chowdhury. Thank you so much. So is format specifier similar to your print statement in what? Printf statement. That's why I use this. Okay, we have not used this before. So this is similar to my printf statement in C. Okay, which says I'm printing an integer. So that's it. Okay. So don't worry. I say I introduce this, you can use it, also you can ignore it. So just to print that, okay, whatever is here is an integer number, that's all. Fine. All right, so this is done. Let's look at catching specific exceptions, because whatever happened now, we didn't know, right? We just printed some stuff. So let's look at catching specific exceptions. Fine. So we have seen the previous one, we never knew what it was. Okay, so now in this case, if you know what the exception is going to be, now you can't have to catch it. Example, try. So some statements, right? Printf, some statements. It can be statements, it can be statements also. Okay, now after that is done, you now say except what? What's that? Say index error. Now please look here, we are catching specific exception, right? Index error on the same line. So index error. Okay, so again, after this, maybe like you go with some statements. So what are all the exceptions? Value error. We took help from Google, right? So except say value error. Together, please, is together, colon. Let's say index out of bound error. Except, okay, I have seen it said index error actually, EXEPT. Let's say except it's called end of file scanning error, end of file, or division by zero error. Division by zero. Okay, error, whatever. Colon. Fine. All right, guys. So this is the syntax. Fine. So let's try doing something here. Okay, let's try doing something here. The thing is this. Okay, can we actually do this? Like, can we give an example? Okay, I will just write a simple example. An example. So guys, listen, why I always write this, because some students ask, why are you wasting time writing before you start running? So it's actually to reinforce whatever we are doing. I don't think I'm wasting time, because I believe there are so many of you who are just new to programming. Okay, sorry, after some time, obviously I will stop writing. Okay, I will just be reading slides and then we're going ahead, no worries. So I'm going to just write some statements. All right, so I have a function. Let's say I have a function, say hello. I just call it hi for simplicity, which takes an argument. Fine. And I'm going to check if the value I'm going to pass into this is less than, say, 3. Now, okay, if it's less than 3, I will perform some operation. Maybe I'm going to assign the value to b, and I'm going to do maybe like a upon maybe like a minus 3. Now, you remember that this is, if the value of a is 3, guys, please listen. This will give an error. Yes or no? If the value of a is 3, this will give an error, because I'm going to do 3 upon what? 0. Right? Fine. So instead of writing 3 upon 0, I'm going to get that. So I'm going to say, okay, fine, print something. All right. Remember indentation under this, I'll say print value, return value is whatever. Okay. Then here I'm not using those spots of format specifier now. Okay. Then I'll just say this. No worries. Now, this is fine. Now, I have not used any try and catch here, right? So I'm going to call this now. First thing I say hi, I will say 5. This prints what now? 5 upon 2. This returns what? No error. What's the output? 5 upon 2 is what? 2.5. No worries. Now, there will be a problem now when I call this. I'll say hi of 3. There will be an error. Error occurs. So I know that this guy is going to give an error. So I will go up, I'll wrap it around, try. Now I need to handle specific exception, yes or no? Fine. Now I know which exception is going to occur. You know the name already. Okay, or you run this and let the error exception occur. Okay, you run it and let the exception occur. So I now say, okay, fine. Whatever occurred is called except zero division error. Zero division error. Okay, now I have to print some statement, right? That will make it continue and not break out. Yes or no? I'll say print, say can't divide by 0. Okay, can't divide by 0. Now this is first case. Okay. Another thing, please listen. There'll be another exception that will occur, which we call name error. You will run this and you will see. Okay. First thing, run this without try and catch. Sorry, I should have written this in red. I should have wrapped it in red, guys. But it's okay. So I'll wrap it in red. Okay, except EXCEPT. Another one is called name error. EXCEPT is called name error, and you're going to see it now. So it's called name error. So, or we can actually print division by 0 exception occurred. okay? Instead of saying can't divide by 0. And then you say print name error has occurred, okay? Name error has occurred. Has occurred. No worries. Occurred. Done. Okay. So we're going to see this practically, okay? So one of the things you can actually do is like you might want to kind of what do I say? Handle this exception in an else clause also. So exception handling in else clause. Remember, if something is true, right, print something. Otherwise, if it is false, print another, right? So you can actually handle exception in else clause. Okay. Exception in else clause. Else statement. Fine. This is fine. So what's an example? You have a function now, so I'm not going to write it. So, oh, but I need to call it with the function, guys. I have to call it with the function. I called my same function, def, okay? So the function, I always want to write in blue so that I can kind of wrap it in this, okay? So I'll say a function is called, now remember when you're using sum, you should not use sum is a keyword, so you can use sum double M, okay, to differentiate that. So I need to add two numbers and return maybe whatever, do some computation, fine. Now I will say, okay, fine. I'm going to return the sum in C. I'll say maybe first one, I'll say A plus B, and then divided by maybe like say A minus B. It doesn't matter. So I want to force them, right? So I convert it like, put them in braces so that I'll follow board mass. But it doesn't matter whether you use double braces or so. It's still going to do what? First one and then divide by the second one. No worries. Or you can use floor division in this case also. No problem. Now, so this is it. So we are not using if now, okay? So in this case now, what I will do, I will say print something, right? Print result is, say result is whatever, something. Okay, now result is oh good, okay, something like that. Maybe result is, then I will say comma C, no worries. Now, if this holds true, I need to think now whether there will be an error when I call this suite. Say I'm going to call it with sum of, please listen guys, sum of, take a number, okay, say maybe 4, comma 6. So add them, you're going to get 10. Then you subtract, you're going to get, this is what? 10 on minus 2, which is minus 5. So no error. So let's call it with 4, comma 4. So we're going to get 4 plus 4 is 8 upon 0. So this will give me an error. So now I will now say result. This I will say result in what? Result in error. Okay, by 0 or something like that. So I know in this case I'm going to get this. Else I have to use this else now. So I will use the else keyword now. So I will write it in black. I will write in black. Else, if it does not result in 0, okay, in this case, I have to print that what the result is. You got the point now? Print the valid result is something, comma C. You got what I'm trying to explain. So if this holds true now, then I know where this is going to give me an error. Fine. So where is it going to give me an error? From the operation on D. So I'll say, okay, fine. Wrap it around, try. Make sure they are on the same line. So try. Then inside here now, I know this is going to give me an error. I say except what? Zero division error. Colon. Okay, so when zero division error occurs, I have to do this. Okay, now else I have to print this. Now, yes, yeah, it gives the remainder. That's true, but please listen. What Samat asked actually, Joshi, what he asked actually was we tried printing some stuff, okay, percentage. I think what he was asking was in the print statement. I think that was what he asked. I'm really sorry if I didn't get your question. Yes, else should be followed by an if statement. Good boy. Good boy. This is what I expected somebody to ask. Maggie, this is fine, okay? So that's why I said exception handling in else statements. I did not say if else. Good. That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So we will do one thing. We will run this. Okay, we will run this and see whether we are going to get an error. Because in this case, this try says if this is this, print that, else. Okay, that is how it's interpreted. That's a brilliant one. All right, so we're going to see this now. Now there is use of finally keyword, which we have seen also, which is similar to default, and that's why you see when we write things down, it makes more sense. Thank you for pointing that out. So now let's look at what use of finally keyword. So is this similar to our default keyword? Okay, now you see, you see most times it's like default, yes or no? It's like default, similar to default in what? Similar to default in what? Switch case, yes or no? Now, but one thing here is this, okay? Okay, this will execute when the program runs normally. We will see that practically, okay? Or if the program also terminates due to some exception. I hope this is clear. Runs normally, fine. Again, it's going to print that. Or if it terminates, only to what? Some exception is going to print that. So it's similar. What's the syntax? Syntax is similar to whatever we've seen already. So there will be some try, whatever, okay? And inside you have some code, some statements, except some error which we have seen. Inside that there will be some statements. Now, we have seen this, right? We have seen else without an if, this works, and some statements, and then finally some statements. So what you should remember now, this will execute whether this happens or not. So it's actually funny. It's actually funny because in switch case, default says when all the cases fails, right? Execute this. But finally says whether you fail or not, execute this. So we see an example. All right, guys. Now, we see an example, and let's look at the last one before we start running our codes. It's called raising exceptions. Can exceptions be raised? Can exceptions be raised? And why do you actually raise the exception, actually? So before that, please learn to ask Google, okay? So can exceptions be raised in Python? Exceptions be raised, be thrown from a constructor. Don't worry, be raised or thrown in Python. Why do we actually do that? Okay, so you see here, sometimes, okay, I wrote exceptions. Sometimes you want Python to throw a custom exception before for error handling, right? You can do this by checking a condition and raising an exception. If the condition is true, the exception is what? If the condition is true, the raise exception is typically warns the user, okay, or the calling application. So you see here, so this is actually present in these exceptions and errors in this documentation, okay? So you see the syntax, and then you've seen these exceptions where you see how you handle exceptions, okay? We will get into this, and then you see even use of past statement and things like that, and then they must have used it, raising exception, okay? So we raise this exception, and then we're going to get it done, and then that's it, okay? This is raising exception, actually. Raise whatever exception. So it's going to tell you, hey, see, it will terminate, but it will still print something. It will still raise the exception. Now, when you raise exception, the program will still throw an exception, actually. So the sole argument of this is to raise an exception, okay? Indicate that the exception needs to be raised. So this must be either in the exception instance or in the exception class or whatever. Fine? So no worries. This is done. Let's continue. So you have seen that exception can be raised, and we actually do that before we handle it. So on that note, I think we will start now looking into the code. So we minimize this. All right, and then we get back here. All right, one screen at a time. Let's start. So I hope I have commented out everything. I'll clear my console, and let's start from the first one. Okay, so far we have looked into this, okay, exception handling, yes or no. Okay, we started with this, exception versus errors, then catching exceptions by using the try and except method, and then catching specific exception, try and else clause, finally keyword, and then raising exceptions. Fine. Okay, so you've seen this is a simple list which we created, okay, and then we've seen actually why we wrapped it, right? Because we know if we access the first one, the first elements here are, okay, First element is index 0, right? So this was what I think what you asked, okay? I think this was what you asked. Why did I use this? Okay, so I'm going to print this now, and I'm going to print it without this statement also, so you understand the difference. So Control V. So this is second element with format specifier. It's format with format specifier, something like that. Okay. Then this is with format specifier, and then this is without the second element. Okay, without. Fine. So the sixth element in that, no worries. And then I'm going to comment out the rest. Fine. Okay, so this is fine. Let's continue here. So we're going to print this now, run this, look at the console. Okay, the second element with format specifier is 5. Oh, sorry, I didn't want to do this. Without format specifier, I didn't want to do this. What I wanted to do was just this. Sorry. Okay. Okay, this was what I wanted to print. Okay, so I'm going to clear this. All right, I run this again. Oh, sorry, missing braces. Sorry, I didn't cover that properly. Yes, I had extra in this case, so take it out. So this is done. Fine. Now F5. Okay, let the developer know. Invalid syntax. What did I do now? Okay, this is fine. Okay, and then the fifth one is fine. Okay, sorry, please. I didn't put a comma. You got that? So that I didn't put a comma in this case. So sorry about that. Clear the console and then press F5, and that's it. Okay. So you see, guys. So this is, we have been doing this before. Okay. So the second element is 5, and then the second element with format specifier is 5. No worries. Now the sixth element, right, is not there. We know it's going to throw what? Index out of bound exception, and then we say, oops, an error occurred, and that's it. Fine. I hope this is clear. All right, so let's continue with the next. Now this is done, so we're looking at the second example. So second one, I think I've jumped to the fourth one. Second, okay, third here. So close this guy here. Fine. So please listen. So the second is handling multiple exceptions. Okay. So I think I treated this, right? Yes. So where we know the names of the exception. So what I said is, you try to run this, okay? You try to run this without wrapping it around the what? To this clause. So what you can do, please listen. I'm going to comment out this. You see, you've seen this, right? So we know this is going to throw an error. No worries. And then we're going to comment out the exception codes. Okay, comment them out. Fine. And let's see the name of these exceptions. Okay. So I'm going to clear this now. Clear. Now I'm going to run this now. F5. Now you see, oh, nothing was printed, obviously, because I didn't wrap this around print statement. Guys, please pay attention. So let me call this now. I'll say haha. Fine. I'm going to call it with 4. All right. Enter. Now, what did you see? This is division by 0 exception. Yes or no? The name is division, 0 division exception. I know this one comes. Now, let's do one thing here. It's actually printed in the console also, 0 division exception. No worries. Now, let me call it again with what? 6. Fine. Now, I press enter. Now, what is this called actually? It says unbound local variable, which is, see here, local variable B, reference before assignment. I close this, come back here. This is called name error, okay, or unbound local error, sorry, unbound local error. Okay, so you can actually handle it. I hope you're able to follow, right? So it's called unbound local error. So here, the first one, 0 division error has occurred. This is unbound local error has occurred. You got my point? So paste this here. It's called unbound local error. So I'm going to print it. Unbound local error has occurred. Local error has occurred. Fine. So this is fine now, and we know that this is it. So let's go and handle this now. So we now wrap them around what? Try and catch method. Handle them in this try and catch exception block. So except this 0 division, except that division. Fine. And then unbound local division. And then we run this now, F5. So you see here, zero division error has occurred and are handled, right? Because first thing, it terminates after it's encountered this, yes or no? So you can now call this one now. You say, haha, and then you call 6 now. With 6, now you see, okay, because I'm calling it actually from the console, that was why this error is coming, okay? Unbound local exception, okay? So what I can do is to make this appear here. Please listen, without terminating. To make it appear here. Remember in the previous case, let's clear this in case if you're not able to follow. Look here. Here, there is no shouting, what do you call it? There are no shouting, what do you call it, messages, right? And it did not terminate abruptly. It ran and then it can counter the error and printed this and it continued. So the next case is, I want to comment this guy out now. Because if I call it from the console, it's going to give me an error. I want to know which one is being called. Now, this is now, it's called the second one. Unbound local error has appeared. Okay, and unhandled. You got the point? Fine. Okay, so this is fine. And let's proceed. So I'm going to comment this guy out now. And the next one. All right, so this, I will and close this here. This is the third program. The fourth one is here. Okay, so the third one says the program to depict else clause. So like what Maggie said, is like, sir, there is no if, okay? And that is actually fine because this looks like if statement only this side, okay? So I know there will be zero division and you have seen how to actually look for the error, right? And then this is it. And then when I call this now, I know for sure this is going to give me 9 upon 3, which is 3. And this is going to give me 0. So it will print this, and then it's going to do what now? It's going to give an error here, but it will not break out. It will continue. I mean, it's just transfer the control to the next. So this is 3.0. And it says 8 divided by 0 results in 0. Fine. Okay, so there is no if statement here, and that works fine. All right, so next. Now this says now the use of final keyword in Python demo. Okay, so now you see here we want to see the final keyword. Okay, and then before we go to raising exceptions, so finally keyword says what? If I divide this, okay, I'm using the floor division, right? So I'm going to get an error. Now I handled it. You can't divide by 0 obviously. Finally, this block is always executed regardless of the exception rules. So it's not like my default stuff. Hey, you can't divide by 0. This is always executed. So it printed this, you can't divide by 0 obviously, and it printed this is always executed. All right, cool. Let's go to the next one now. So the next says, all right, so we are, sorry, ouch, yeah. Okay, finally, I commented something out, I hope. Okay, that's fine, let's continue. So I'm going to remove this from here. And the fifth one says, oh, there is an exception. Yeah, that is actually there. So remove this guy, and this was the pattern, and then this is the last one. Okay, so we can raise an exception. Okay, it will also actually break out and tell, hey, you raised exception. Hey, who are you? I am just an exception, bro. Okay, so determine whether the exception was raised or not. Fine, and we have to use this keyword called raise. Okay, try raise name error. Okay, and because this is actually going to give a name error, nothing we actually doing, so we just run this now. Hey, you see here, you expected it not to give this message, right? But obviously you raised the exception. Hey, who are you? That's the exception, the name error. And you say here, okay, hey, who are you? Okay, and then name error says, hey, who are you? Okay, guys, fine. Now this is done, and let's look at the next thing. So the next thing we wanted to look into is this guy, right? So don't worry about this pattern. I explained that with reference to indentation. All right, so we are done with this, and I want to look into what regular expressions. Okay, that was why I kept this. So let's take some time to understand regular expressions. So far, let me look at the chat box and see if you have any doubts. Yeah, okay, so far are you able to follow, guys? All right, so I will minimize this now, and let's start with regular expressions. Welcome to regular expressions. So this is regular expressions, an introduction. I wind up in exactly 10 minutes, guys. So introduction. Okay. So I don't know whether you have studied this, but let's do something briefly. I will open some stuff. This is some Java code. Okay, please listen. This is some Java program, and then I'm going to do one thing now. I will say Control F, right? So I'm looking for servlets, serv, whatever, let. Fine. Now I'm searching for servlet, right? So I have seen servlets here. So let's say I want to replace this servlet. Yes or no? So what you can do is you find and replace, right? I don't know whether it's Control R, I don't know. So find all occurrences of this. So there are 2,209 of them. Okay. And then you replace with something. Okay. Replace here. So replace with. So I'm finding all servlets. I'm going to replace it with what? Something. I don't want to do that. This is a kind of a matching pattern, right? It's a kind of an expression. So what happens here is actually there is a string, a query string. So the query string says, what do you want to find? You say you want to find servlets. And it has to look for the whole case. It has to be an exact match. Yes or no, guys? So this exact match can also be known as a pattern. But the problem is this. This is a loose analogy of pattern actually. Because servlet is the same thing. What if I'm interested in numbers, like say 2, 3, 4, with some hyphen, maybe 5, 5, 5, with another hyphen 1, 2, 3, 4. This is one case. Another case is starting with 2, 3, 4, but it is 5, 5, maybe 5, 6, 3, and maybe it is 9, 2, 7, 4. Will this be an exact match now? No. Please listen. Control F and replace works on exact match. Yes or no? But the pattern is an extension of an exact match where it looks at some similarity based on maybe length. Similarity will be to look at the length of the stuff, okay, length of whatever, and things like that. So you cannot say it's an exact match, because in that case this is very entirely different from this. Both are not the same. So regular expressions extend the functionality. So we now say like now, regular expressions extends the functionality of what? Extends the functionality of searching in your text editor, in your word processor, okay? And it's heavily used by developers when maybe, let's say, some use cases. So let's ask this guy, use cases of regular expressions. Okay, use cases of regular expressions. Actually, in brief, they call it regex, right? But let's type now, regular expressions. So you see some practical use cases for regular expressions, okay? The bits and nuts of it. I hope my internet has not closed. So one of the things he says here, okay, in JavaScript, okay, you can actually use it to what? Whatever available, use it to modifier. You can use that as a modifier no matter how you call them. And okay, where are they actually? Sorry, please look here. Use cases, password pattern matching. If you're a web developer, okay, you must have seen that. You want the password to start with. So you see this carat symbol, right? Starts with this or something, and contains whatever, okay? And maybe like more in between, it must contain something and must be 8 and more, length and more, or something like that. So you want to use it to enforce what? Pattern, okay? Regular expression. So pattern matching, password pattern matching, one thing. Now everything is explained here. Email format checker, because email should have something, right? Obviously, in between you might need to split it. Some name @ symbol has to be there. Obviously, one @ only should be there, but it can contain one or more alphabets and what? Numerals or something like that. So you can actually read this block. It's really nice. Okay. Then after that, you might actually look at what? Smart character replacement. Fine. And whatever. Some things will continue like that. Okay. So you see, there are use cases of what? Regular expressions. Fine. So let's say you're interested to filter out number. So in Nigeria, our country code, India is only +191, right? So again, for what? Validating what? Customer number. All right, because now your number has to be a unique number, yes or no? Because before you take the number, you have to supply your Aadhaar card and maybe like even your PAN card also in some cases, or your what do you call that, voter's ID, or maybe like anything that uniquely identifies you. So the number pattern now starts with +234. Now, even if I exclude this, the country code is 234, that is Nigeria. Okay, so 80 whatever. I don't want to tell my number 2419. Okay, okay, something like this. So now, if you are interested in doing that, that means that you can have to now resolve to what? Regular expressions, because you cannot use Control F and whatever replace. Okay, so that's why we say regular expressions are helpful. Okay, and in most cases, and yes, you have seen the use cases, and it can save you lots of time. It's a time saver also. Okay, time saver saves lots of time. Okay, you can do a couple of things. Fine. There is one quote, and I read it somewhere, okay, and somebody says that one thing, that knowing regular expression, okay, kind of, I'm paraphrasing, that knowing regular expression helps you to kind of write codes in a faster, write faster codes and more readable codes. So the knowledge of regular expression, the knowledge, and you have seen it actually, the knowledge of regex for short, regular expression, okay, yields or gives rise to productive whatever coding, gives rise to productivity, whereby instead of spending hours together writing code, you can actually use this because it's already present, and we have to say import regular expression array, and we're going to use it array dot some stuff and call whatever you want to do. So we will stop here for now. That means finding patterns without regular expression. So let's look at case study. Without regular expression, how can you validate? How can we validate an email? Sorry, how can we validate a phone number without regular expression? How can we validate a phone number without regex? How? Answer, write method, checks them in between. Answer, you write methods. Moderators, just give them attendance. So now what you do here is this, okay? Let's listen. You have some method and we're going to execute it and we wind up. So I was okay, fine. Let's define a method that will say is valid. Is valid. And it's going to take an argument, which is the number, right? So please listen. If you see this number is actually by default, is a text, right? Yes or no, guys? Because if you want to split this and perform operations, we have to take it as a text. So let's say we take some text, whatever, as an input, okay? Now, we now check the length of this test, right? So you can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But don't forget that there are dashes here. Oh, sorry, I counted without you seeing it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But there are 2 dashes here, 11 and 12. Fine. So once this holds true now, so what you can do, you now check if the length is not equal to 12, right? So if length is not equal to 12, length of what? Text is not equal to what? 12. You're going to return what? False, right? Okay, so I'm going to run this code now because I know our attendance guys they will just fill and leave. So you go back here and then let's run this code, and then from there I'll start explaining. Okay, so till here is fine. I'll clear this console and then we come back here. Okay, let's look at this code. So this is what I wanted to explain. Fine. If valid, fine. If it's not equal to 12, fine, we return this. Now let's start breaking this number up. Okay, so remember what I want to show you. So I said 234 dash 806 dash 4, okay, 3219, whatever. Okay, so I wanted dash, I put that. You check again. After that, you have fourth, right? So 4, 5, 6. So the 7th place, I have to slice it out. So I needed only 4, 5, 6. So I'll write this method. It should not be decimal. Now the 7th location, what I expected to see is this. Now 8, 9, 10 should not be decimal. Then I return this. So now let's take some stuff. So this is the number which I wanted. I'm going to ask, is this number a valid number? I'll print this. Sure, Sashi, you're free to leave. Okay, so I will just print this. and let's check. If it is valid, it's going to return true. Okay, because other cases are false. Otherwise, return true. Then I will now check is my name actually. Is my name a valid phone number? Okay, so we run this and we wind up. So press this. Oh, sorry. End of file while scanning. Obviously, I need to remove this guy. Fine. Control S, F5. All right, so you can see here. Is this a valid phone number? True. Is my name a valid phone number? False. Okay. So on this note, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. So tomorrow we continue with this, and then, like I said, on the 20th day we start, 25th day we start building some applications. Okay, because we have almost covered most of the things which you wanted to do. All right. So do you have any questions? Okay. Are you bored? Tired? I don't think so. Thank you guys for tuning in, and until I come your way next time, happy studying, and always feel free to ask me doubts. Okay? Take care. God bless you. Bye for now.